Hello and welcome to Newsnight. I am Ladi Akeredoluale. It's our pleasure to have you join us today. Nigeria recorded an important milestone in the healthcare system when the World Health Organization, the WHO, granted maturity level ML3 to the country. This milestone means, amongst others, that Nigeria can take the vital step of beginning local production of vaccines, not just for COVID-19, but other viruses. What other implications are there for this approval? And can the country take maximum advantage of the benefits? Newsnight talks to the Director General of the National Agency for Food and Drugs Administration and Control, NAFDAC, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye. Prof, it's a pleasure to see you once again. Thank you for your time. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. It's always good to be here with you. Thank you.
And congratulations on this successful application and receipt of approval for this mRNA technology hub.
Thank you. It's a good thing for Nigeria.
How did this come across to you? How did you receive the news? The last time I spoke to you, we were still several steps behind. What happened between that time and this approval?
Well, a lot has happened since the last time we discussed, and this approval of Nigeria to be one of the countries that will manufacture mRNA. A lot of our eminent Nigerians, Dr. Aminat Mohammed, Dr. Konjo Iweala, and so many others have fought to make sure that Nigeria is not left out of the manufacturing of vaccine. And of course, the ministry, the Minister of Health. So it is it's a lot of people working together to make sure that we are not left out. Human capital is extremely important. Collaboration is extremely important. Looking at this country as ours is extremely important. And the expression of interest came out towards, I think, middle of November last year. And I informed BVNL to send an expression of interest. But it is not just that alone. It is the fact that our eminent Nigerians that almost weep for this country. Anytime we are talking about something that will bring glory to our land, very passionate people. They put a lot of pressure from all angles. So the expression of interest became, successful. And the rest is history. So Nigeria is now one of the countries that will manufacture mRNA vaccine. And that is the best thing that could happen to us at this time in terms of the vaccine technology.
Now, as you were speaking there, it comes to mind that this is not only about COVID-19 vaccines. There are other vaccines as well. But I want you to refresh our memories about the steps that led us to this. I mean, the technical steps. If my memory serves me right, when I spoke to you then, you talked about several dozen steps that Nigeria had to take to arrive at this level. And you also talked then about the challenges. So today, how did we get to this stage in terms of overcoming those challenges? I know you've talked about the people who fought for us in terms of the political will and putting us out there and getting the country on this pedestal. But in terms of the technicals, and you have been front and center of that, how did we arrive here? What was it like to get to this point?
To manufacture vaccine in any country, the regulatory agency must be strong enough for WHO to agree for that country to manufacture vaccine. We call it regulatory system strengthening. And this journey began about 4.5 years ago when I joined NAFDAC. As soon as I got in, I think January 16 or so, 2018, roughly less than 2 months after I resumed, I knew that NAFDAC has to get a facelift, if I want to use that. We started what is called quality management system. When you are trying to be strong as a regulatory agency, when a regulatory agency is trying to be strong, there has to be some introspection. What is it that we have not been doing well? Which state are we as a regulatory agency? There is no regulatory agency that can say that is strong without what is called quality system. From entering the agency building to seizure of food or drug to sensitizing, it is all about quality. It has to show quality. And we started quality management system. It is a lot of details. I cannot go into that. We started that training. It is an agency-wide training. We started in Abuja, and in Lagos rather, and Abuja, and cascaded it down to the zones and to the states. Why is it so important? Quality system thinks about the customer. What am I doing that will impact the customer negatively? And why should I not do that again? Or what am I doing that will impact the customer positively, and how that can continue, that can be sustained? That's quality system. We did that for about 1.5 years, from 2018. And in 2019, June, we got certification. It is called ISO 9001 certification, meaning that now NAFDAC staff will start thinking of the customers. Why is that important? Because we have to make sure that whatever our customers are using are of quality, whether it is food, whether it is drug, or whether it is water, or whatever the regulatory system can be. We started using standard operating procedure. Standard operating procedure. Because it is important, if you want to meet the timeline, you have to have standard operating procedure. So that a file will not stand or stay on somebody's desk for 2 weeks instead of 2 days. We started doing documentation. We were very, very poor in documentation upon resumption. We started doing documentation using SharePoint, Microsoft 365 SharePoint. So all these add up to quality system. We started digitalizing our process. The registration of food, drug, or any of our commodities became electronic. So we have electronic system in terms of registration. We have electronic system in terms of clinical trial. We have single portal window from the Ports Inspection Directorate, and so many others like that. So that is the beginning of strengthening a regulatory agency. In parallel to that, we also embarked on what is called ISO 9004. It's WHO Global Benchmarking. Meaning we are not comparing ourselves with ourselves. We are comparing ourselves with the best. And Nigeria can be the best. And what does it take to get to that level? The minimum that we were supposed to have level is maturity level 3. To get there, we needed to overcome 868 recommendations. That was as of January 2018. 868 recommendations for 7 functions that reside with NAFDAC, and for licensing that resides with PCN, Pharmacists Council of Nigeria, because there is no manufacturing facility that can start without the PCN certifying such facility. So it is not just NAFDAC, it's also NAFDAC and PCN. So we have these 868 recommendations. to meet. And we started January of first quarter of 2018. WHO came for the first benchmarking audit June of 2019. And by that June, we have reduced these 868 recommendations to 147. But the 147 were very difficult, and COVID-19 didn't help because we couldn't do much the first 6 months of the pandemic. But we kept at it. So of course, they were meeting with us virtually because they couldn't come. And by October 15, 2021, last year, we have cleared all the 868 recommendations from our own perspective. Meaning that, okay, you have cleared this because you are showing all the evidences on your SharePoint that we, WHO, are looking at. We are still going to come to see how far you have done, or whether we can actually match what we see in writing to what we see on the SharePoint to what we're going to see when we come. So it is a huge task to overcome over 860 recommendations. That was why anybody will think of a country in terms like Nigeria to manufacture vaccine. Because if the regulatory agency is not strong, let me give you an example. Good manufacturing practice. If the regulatory agency is not strong enough in knowing good manufacturing practice, use it every day for their companies, they will not allow a vaccine manufacturing facility to be set up. Clinical trials. For any commodity, any health commodity, you have to do clinical trials. For a vaccine facility to be approved for a country, if there's going to be clinical trial, meaning that it's not just fill and finish, somebody else has already done the work, they're just transferring the substance to us to dilute in a very, very sterile way, and the package, then it is extremely important that that country or a regulatory agency understands clinical trials. Phases 1, 2, 3, and then phase 4, which is essentially what we were doing for COVID-19 vaccine that we all got. Phase 4 is the post-marketing surveillance phase, and we did extremely well with our post-marketing surveillance, safety monitoring. Of course, we were trained in the process. AU Smart Safety Surveillance came to train us. MHRA of England or UK also helped us. So it worked well for us, because as we were facing the challenges of COVID-19 pandemic, we were also training ourselves to reduce the indicators that we're supposed to meet, or the recommendations that we're supposed to satisfy. So without maturity level 3, they couldn't have chosen us, no matter what pressure we put on them. They couldn't have chosen us as one of the 6 countries that could manufacture mRNA.
I want you to also look at the industry into which this technology is going to be put. The pharmaceutical industry, the pharmaceutical and manufacturing sector into which our application of this technology, not just for COVID, but for other vaccines, is going to be put. Do you think that from your own assessment, the sectors are ready to be able to do what is necessary to maintain standards, to ensure that the efficacy of whatever it is that they are producing and all of that is going to be the best practice, given the fact that we're not the only ones who will be watching to see how we perform with this?
That is such a good question, because the work has just begun. Once we get the maturity level 3 declaration, and the manufacturing facility that will be producing also doing research and development on COVID-19 vaccine or other vaccine. The pressure is on us, NAFDAC. And that was why it took us 4.5 years to get to where we are today. You cannot give what you don't have. We have it now, but we cannot rest on our oars that we got it and then we just business as usual. No, that's why I said the work is just beginning. About 3 years ago, we did what is called the GMP roadmap, where we went around the country to inspect about 165 pharmaceutical companies to see whether they are compliant in terms of good manufacturing practice. It was very, very tasking. It took about 7-8 months. So we've been preparing our manufacturers for this time. But in terms of vaccine manufacturing, the technology is quite different compared to the conventional drugs. Part of what this granting us opportunity to manufacture mRNA comes with is capacity building. There is no country in Africa that has the capacity in terms of vaccine manufacturing. So it's the opportunity also comes with building the capacity, teaching the company or associated research centers on different aspects of mRNA. But let's not go too far out in terms of people coming into the country to help us in terms of capacity building. In Nigeria, we have the capacity. We don't have everything, but we have the capacity. We are so blessed that sometimes it amazes me. We were at Nigerian Veterinary Institute in Vaughan last week, and they've been manufacturing vaccines for over almost 100 years, since 1924, and that is in Nigeria. We have NIMA, National Institute of Medical Research, that is almost like a university on its own. We have NIPRID, National Institute of Pharmaceutical Research and Development. It is that we have to now collaborate. We have to work together and respect each other for what we have individually. Sometimes we don't give credence to what we do for ourselves. It is only when we go out of the country we start shining like stars, because there is nobody that is going to say, oh, I'm going to ignore him or her. We've got to learn how to collaborate. So, to answer your question, we have the capacity to train ourselves, but we will still need help from outside because this mRNA technology is new. So, I believe we're going to be very successful, but we are waking up, we are digging up the gems in our midst and trying to show the world that we can do it.
The mRNA technology that you've talked about, I did allude to it at the beginning that it wasn't only about COVID. It gives us the possibilities and the opportunities to probably go into the manufacture of other types of vaccines. And therefore, this is a huge opportunity. Now, first, I would like to know what are the possibilities that we can use this mRNA technology towards? And then secondly, do you think that we can ramp up quickly once we receive the necessary approvals to be able to pursue some of this, given what you just said about the capacity of some of the institutions that are already in place within Nigeria? It was this technology that perhaps they were missing.
Yes, the mRNA technology can be used to develop other vaccines like HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, malaria, for all we know. It is exciting that the advancements or advances in medical science or pharmaceutical science or biotechnological science has brought us this far. There are sharp individuals in our country that we need to recognize. The government needs to support the institutes or the individuals so that whatever they have learned, they can use it. In terms of ramping up, yes, things can be ramped up very well. You see, there is nothing we cannot do if we put our hearts into it, if we put our minds into it. In this country, there is nothing we cannot do. However, just like what I said before, that what you don't have, you cannot give. NAFDAC now has gone through this Herculean journey for 4.5 years. We have to now work hand in hand. It is a national project. It's not just regulatory that we are doing, regulatory control. It is our project. So we're going to work hand in hand with the manufacturer in terms of good manufacturing practice, in terms of clinical trials, in terms of laboratory testing, so that the process can be expedited. So to answer your question, yes, this can be ramped up, but I don't want to give a false impression because we will not approve. NAFDAC will not approve anything that WHO will not endorse, because that is part of getting to where we're going, which is the maturity level 3 that is knocking at our doors.
Apparently, it isn't only national collaborations that may become necessary. International collaboration may become necessary. At the same time that Nigeria got this approval for this, several other African countries were given approval as well. And some of those I had spoken to in the run-up to this, our interview, had said, perhaps it might be a viable opportunity for Nigeria to collaborate with some of the other countries that also received this approval either before or at the same time as Nigeria, especially because of the cost and the sharing of information that had already taken place when we were battling COVID-19 and the response to COVID-19. Do you think this is something viable and something that could or should be explored?
It is something viable, it should, and it's being explored as we speak. Nigeria is one of the 4 African countries that belong to the AU Smart Safety Surveillance: Nigeria, Ghana, Ethiopia, and South Africa. So, collaboration, reliance is extremely important. I'm part of the partnership in vaccine manufacturing in Africa. And we have the portal, not portal, rather, the channel in terms of the regulatory. What can we do together to make sure that we can be strengthened, or we will get our strength sustained during this process and thereafter? In terms of other countries that have been given the opportunities, we are already talking about what type of vaccine development, aside from COVID-19, what type of modification can we do with mRNA for particular region, so that we don't repeat and compete against each other. For example, even for the COVID-19 vaccines, if we have the mRNA technology, there are other technologies too that we can develop. Is Egypt making mRNA and Ghana is making mRNA, or Nigeria is making mRNA? At that point, we'll be competing against each other. So the talk is already going on to strategize in terms of the types of vaccine that we should be making per region. But that is not yet documented, no white paper on that, but we're already talking about it. So in terms of reliance and collaboration, it goes without saying that that is going to be it in order to have success in this particular journey that we have embarked on. Thank you.
Now, Prof, I want to expand the discussion a little to talk about COVID-19 itself. It seems that Nigeria bucked the trend along with most of Africa, particularly with our response strategy to the arrival of COVID-19. But 2 years plus on, it appears that the world is returning to some kind of normal in many respects. Things have kind of gone back to normal almost. But do you think that we are being a bit hasty, and I'm talking not in Nigeria, now I'm talking globally, that we might be a bit hasty in this going back to normal at this point, especially because so much about COVID-19. I know you said that 2 or 3 times in the past, that so much about COVID-19 is still unknown, and that research needed to be fairly detailed and more thorough about it before we can go to sleep yeah, okay, we now know what this is about. Do you think we're being a bit hasty in going back to normal from a public health perspective?
Yes, I think we are being a little hasty because in many parts of the world right now, Southeast Asia, there is still a lot of COVID-19 raging. China, I don't know, so many millions are under lockdown right now. In the US, the Omicron is still doing a lot of damage. So we may be a little too hasty, and that is why the caution must go out that those that, well, in Nigeria you see so many people that don't use masks, but we have to use masks if we are in a group, in an enclosed environment. Let me tell you what has happened with this mask, and I will talk personally. I used to have a lot of allergies, but since COVID-19 pandemic, that has dropped precipitously, because I now know even the environment is enough to make somebody ill. And the Chinese, Indians, they were being wise because they had SARS, another variant of SARS earlier than us before. You go to China before the pandemic, you will see them using masks. Not all of them. If somebody is ill, they use masks so that they will not transfer it to somebody else. So we still have to do the non-pharmaceutical precautions, use our mask, wash our hands, use sanitizers. We shouldn't aggregate without mask in a closed environment. To me, even if this is going down, the trend is going down, that will keep it going down. But if we just let our guards down, then something else may happen. And who knows what other variant are we going to see? For example, with the war in Ukraine, people are being displaced on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, moving to other countries. We don't know what is going to happen, so we cannot let our guards down. In terms of the therapeutics or vaccines, everybody should take vaccines. We have taken it, and we are still alive. Some people thought, in 1 month people will die, and after 1 month people didn't die, or 1 year people will die, and then after 1 year they will say to 2 years people. No, that is misinformation. The vaccines work. Actually, what is making us to let our guards down, so to say, is because of the vaccines. If the vaccines were not there, people didn't get vaccines, they will get COVID. Most of the people that are dying in the US, I know that, 90-something% of them are unvaccinated. So to answer your question again, we are letting our guards down. We are a little bit hasty, but I'm urging all Nigerians to take the vaccines. We've not seen serious adverse events, not very, very serious adverse events. We have seen a lot of adverse events, but not, very, very low, less than 5%. But the very, very serious ones, we have not seen that. So it is very safe, or yes, relatively safe, more than 99% confidence in that. So we should not let our guards down. We should just do the right thing, take the vaccine, do the non-pharmaceutical precautions in order to make sure that this COVID-19 doesn't come back.
My next question, of course, has to do with back here at home. Since you say that we need to keep on with the non-pharmaceutical interventions and so on, and most importantly, we need to keep taking the vaccines. Would you support a request for more research, or for the research to continue into COVID-19 and what it is and how best we can tackle it should there be a resurgence? Because in your answer to the last question, you mentioned that parts of Asia, including China, are witnessing a resurgence of this, and that they're having to go back to some of the interventions that they thought they had gone past.
Yes, continued research on COVID-19. What has happened in Nigeria, the low death rate in Nigeria is a marvel, and research must be conducted to know why. Why is it that we have low death rate? And it's general in Africa. Is there something peculiar to us? Is there something peculiar to the types of vaccinations we had in the past? Is there something peculiar to the type of food ingredients, additives, natural additives that we take? A lot has to be done. Is there anything relating to genetics that might have made the death rate to be so low? So research has to continue. For example, in some parts of even Nigeria, there is increase or relative increase in the number of patients or COVID-19 patients, whereas in some parts there is decrease. Why? These are questions that we need to ask, and it is research that does that. It is research that will give us the hypothesis, that will answer our hypothesis, whichever hypothesis that we are setting. So to answer your question, worldwide there must be research. For example, is the COVID-19 vaccine good on the long run for children? We have not even dosed our own children. America, developed countries have been dosing children up to 5. We have not done that. So to answer your question, yes, research must continue, especially in Africa.
In terms of the general regulatory framework in Nigeria as it relates to drugs, the last time that you and I had a sit down like this, you enumerated some of the challenges. Of course, at that time, COVID-19 was one of the things that, as an agency, you were battling. Would you say that the situation has improved somewhat since then? Because, for example, we have seen that vaccines that were with short shelf life that were donated to Nigeria, NAFDAC was one of the agencies that stepped in and said, look, these vaccines, we cannot use them. They've got to be destroyed. So in terms, generally speaking, of your regulatory functions, have they become easier since it appears as if COVID-19 has taken a backseat?
Yes, it has become easier. First, because we decided, meaning the government, Ministry of Health, Primary Health, and NAFDAC, decided that we will not take any vaccines that are so close to expiration. We took them because we weren't sure of how much we're going to get, and hoping that we can use them fast enough. But the uptake was not as fast as the intake. So in terms of the destruction of the vaccine that we did, it has become easier because now we have vaccines that have much longer expiration dating. Even in terms of lot release, what we call lot release, which we gained a lot of experience from this COVID-19 pandemic, it has become much easier for us now to do our testing in the lab because it's becoming repetitive. The process is becoming repetitive, and it's not just the lab testing. Even this, things were really hectic at the beginning. Even the safety monitoring, we are used to now the routine of safety monitoring. We are still continuing, but it wasn't like what it used to be. And it is not just that in terms of our own regulatory. We do track and trace, meaning wherever the vaccines are in the country, we know through our track and trace GS1 driven technology. Now, and Nigeria is one of the few countries in the world that actually started serializing the ones that didn't come with barcoding. We were doing our own in-house barcoding so that all the vaccines that are going to the States, and this is good for the safety of our people, so it's getting easier. We are getting some support from different international partners because they've seen NAFDAC as standing up because we started this on our own, using our own fund. And you know, some international partners are now supporting to make sure that whether it is COVID-19, whether it is anti-malaria, anti-tuberculosis medicine, we can start tracking and tracing them. We use COVID-19 vaccine as pilot. Right now, we are starting with anti-malaria, anti-HIV/AIDS, and anti-tuberculosis to start tracking them.
Let's discuss more broadly. Again, when I spoke to you at the thick of COVID-19, you made mention of the fact that tracking and tracing adulterated and fake drugs is a very dangerous task, and that quite a number of your personnel have had cause to face significant dangers, but nevertheless, you will be going on. I wanted to ask, because when I had the Director General of the Standards Organization of Nigeria on this program, he made mention of the fact that regulatory agencies like his and yours needed to have a very robust presence at Nigeria's entry points, that is the ports, both sea and airports, because these are where many of the products that you're supposed to be tracking and regulating come through. What is the situation with that now, and what is the level of collaboration between yourself and the Standards Organization of Nigeria?
Well, we have NAFDAC and the Standard Organization of Nigeria have good collaboration. I don't have any issue with that. There are some overlapping areas which we have tried to piece out so that each organization will know where their primary focus is, and they will go after the primary focus, and the secondary focus can be left for the agency that has it as primary. But in terms of NAFDAC being at the ports. We were not at the ports for 7 years, 2011 to 2018, and Nigeria suffered the consequence. Oh, we do suffer the consequence, and we are still suffering the consequence because Nigeria became the haven of substandard falsified medicines, counterfeited medicines. Just bring them in. Their port was clear to get it, and that was 2011 to 2018, May 16 to be in particular, because that date when NAFDAC was returned to the port has been ingrained in my memory. Because when I assumed this duty, for 6 months I was running after tramadol that was destroying our children, breaking up homes, and it was because NAFDAC was not at the ports. Since we got back to the ports, we have done a lot. Tramadol decreased precipitously, the import of tramadol, although India also tightened the noose on the export of tramadol. And with our single portal window, it is easier for us now to monitor, of course, to not clear products that we know are contraband. And it is not just that, we go after them from the source. From India, from China, we make sure that it is only products that are of standard that will come into the country. CRIA mechanism. We have CRIA agents in India and China that are linked to the labs that we chose, so that pre-shipment testing will happen. That was there before, but there were huge holes that were created into that mechanism before. Laboratories that don't even have equipment saying that they have tested XYZ, but that has changed. So we have stopped so many products from coming into the country because our own selected labs over there tested them and found them wanting. Substandard, falsified, no content at all in many of them, in some of them rather. So we are doing a lot now that we are at the ports. But in terms of collaboration, we are collaborating very well with Standard Organization of Nigeria. Each agency has its own primary mandate. The Standard Organization of Nigeria is supposed to go after standards. Standards, for example, we have a formula, let's say we have a medicine that has 5 ingredients, the drug, and maybe 4 other non-active ingredients. Standard Organization is supposed to make sure that the active ingredient is of standard, not the formulation, not the product. That the non-active ingredients, maybe talc, maybe, which we're going to talk about, maybe magnesium stearate or whatever, is of standard. So we shouldn't have any issue. My philosophy is that if it is not broken, why do you need to fix something? We have Standard Organization in the US, we have FDA in the US, and they know their primary mandate. Each has its primary mandate. I was there for over 30-something years, and I've never heard of, rift between some of the US and FDA, because each agency tries to focus on their primary mandate. That's what we are doing in Nigeria, and I hope it will continue.
There are quite a number of people who have showed interest. Of course, it was a lot of news when it was announced that baby powder made by Johnson & Johnson internationally had carcinogenic properties, and I think that means that they have the makings of what could eventually become cancer in human beings. But the Johnson & Johnson baby powder is still on Nigerian shelves. So I thought this would have been a good opportunity for me to put this public safety issue onto your table because it is right on your desk. What exactly is the situation? What is it that NAFDAC has found out? And is it NAFDAC that is allowing that baby powder to remain on Nigerian shelves?
Thank you for bringing that up. This is an international news, actually. The carcinogen that is alleged to be causing problems with talc or baby powder, talc, is asbestos. And talc is gotten or is sourced from rocks, from natural rocks. And there was an allegation that it's causing ovarian cancer and what is called mesothelioma, which is inflammation or cancer of the lining of a lung or some of the internal organs. But a lot of research has been done on that. Over 22,000 women or 20,000 women were studied in terms of whether there is a link between talc and cancer. And it has been reported widely that there is no significance, and you have to talk of significance when you're talking of things like this, because it's all about statistics. There is no significant effect of talc on or in terms of causing cancer. This has been, published wide in international journals and also on news media all over the world. We have met several times with J&J and Johnson & Johnson, and they have, which is the manufacturer of the talc powder. And they've explained to us, but it's not just what they explained because they are manufacturers. It is what we also have found out in terms of international literature, things like that. We have it on our shelf because there are so many other baby powder, talc powder, that are not Johnson & Johnson. And all of them are, well, we are approved. A lot of them. So it's not only Johnson & Johnson that we approved. So to cut this story short, we have not seen, based on science, we have not seen the link between the talc, baby powder talc, and cancers. That is why we still keep them on the shelf. We've not banned them.
Professor Adeyeye, I just have enough time to wish you the very best as you continue in the public health drive, and of course, to also wish you the very best with this mRNA technology, which you now have in your hands and which Nigerians are looking forward to seeing you use. Thank you so much for your time and for your patience. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's always good to be with you, to chat with you. Thank you so much, and God bless.
That's our program today. We would, of course, like to hear from you on the conversation. Our social media handles are right there on your screen. You can also listen to this and previous episodes of the program via our podcast. Please visit our website, channelstv.com, to get started. I am Ladi Akeredoluale. Goodbye.